Okay, hello and welcome to episode 8 of Programming with Matt. This episode is called Typecast, and what we'll be doing is just creating a font so that we can write certain stuff on the screen. However, what you see me doing at the minute is just a continuation of last episode where we was building the spells and increasing the heads-up display capabilities. What you see me doing here is two functions called Change Energy and Change XP. Now what these two functions will do is exactly as they say. One will change the energy and one will change the experience points that the player holds. This is just so that as each of them increases or decreases, the bars in the heads-up display will move accordingly. So as you see me doing here is just stealing some variables and just changing it in the same way that you see us doing the health bar last time, but this time for the energy and the XP, which hopefully should change a little bit more than the health. Obviously I've just got to set all the functions up so that they work, and then I have to set all the functions up across all the classes that I've now included, because I've included the player, spells, heads-up display, everything like that to all do this one goal. Change XP function, just as you can see there, what it literally does is it adds whatever value you pass it to the current experience points. Now what this could do at the moment, however, is set the experience points higher than the bar allows, and what that will do is eventually we'll change that so that it changes the level when it gets to that point and sets the XP accordingly. What you see me doing now is I've just created a spell array of the spell class, and what these will do is this will be where all my players' spells are held, whether it will be a blank one or any other spell. What this will allow me to do is just set up a for loop, as you can see, and what this means is that I can draw all 8 of them automatically. Rather than having the 8 functions that you see in front of you, I'll just be able to run that loop once and it will run and draw all 8 of them for me. You can see here how to set up the array in the players so that he has 8 slots, and that will draw, as I said before, in the heads-up display, that will draw correctly. What you see now is me just moving them all over to the spell button. This helps me out. It means that I've got one place that I have to look for them, and this makes it a lot easier for me. What you see me doing here is just adding a little bit of capability to the spells. Now what that means, the if hand.keys key event VK1, that means if the 1 button is pressed, and that will call a function classed in the spell class that of whatever number 1 is, which as you can see is 0, and then what you'll see is if the energy is less than 100, so if you've lost any energy whatsoever, and every 10th tick it will add 1 energy to it. So what this will mean is as the energy decreases, it'll slowly increase the energy accordingly. And the energy cost has to be minus, as this way it will make sure it reduces the energy. And what you also see now is as I cast a spell, the experience goes up. Obviously this won't happen when the game is finished, but this is just to test the experience bar was actually working, which as you can see it was. I just had to correctly set the buttons in the correct place, as they was drawing wrong, they was drawing over too far. And what you see now is now that it works, I can move on, as you should really live by, if you're going to implement something, make sure everything you're implementing works before moving on. Now you see me adding a timer. What the timer will do is, this will mean so that, say if you're just holding your finger down and it casting constantly, it'll add a countdown of 30 ticks we've put on this one. And so what this will do is, when you cast it, it'll set the timer to equal countdown, so at the moment it'll say timer equals 30, then every tick it will reduce timer by 1, so every 30th tick you can recast the spell. This just adds a little bit of a cooldown, which is quite realistic, and obviously you see it makes it look a bit smoother, a bit better for a game. Of course if we didn't add this, then the player could just hold their finger down on the button and cast loads of times, and that isn't what we want. you see me adding now is what I said earlier about setting it so that when the level is reached with experience points, the player will level up and no more experience could be added to that level. And what I also add is that the remaining experience is carried over into the next level. What you've seen, that's why I've added the variable of level XP. This is because that is going to be the experience points needed to level up for the character, and this means I have to add get max health and get max energy as well, as what I want is every time you level up, your health and energy capacity will increase as well. I'm just checking XP because XP isn't drawing correctly in the bars, and as you see it increases properly there. Obviously at the moment still the spell is increasing the experience, which won't happen in the final game, but for the moment it works, as I can test all my functionality revolving around the experience points, and it means I don't have to keep going and doing other stuff. As you see, the health isn't actually changing when I increase my experience. The experience points is increasing as it's meant to, and as you see I make a function called level up. Now this function level up will be a lot easier, as it means I can keep all the coding in one place and it makes it look a little neater. And as you see I make the health increase by 50 and energy increase by 50. And here I changed the number 100 into the variable max energy and set it for health as well. And then I've set the health a little bit so that it looks a little bit more smooth in a way. It adds a little bit of functionality to it. As you can see, there's the font that I've created. See an infinity sign and numbers, some symbols I may need, and obviously a proper font. So what you see here is font.printMessage. Now this is a function that I will be creating in a second, and what I do is I create a string out of the level integer, pass it where I want it to draw it, and the colour that I need to draw it in. And what it will do is it will search the file for the certain letter or number or whatever it is it has to print, and when it finds it, if it's black it will draw a white square, and if it's pink, sorry, it won't draw a square. As you can see here, this is me setting up the font class. What I do is I include a new image of the font, as you see there. I also create a width and a height variable of 5, set the variable string, XO, YO and col. They're just the ones I said before, the XO and Y, obviously the offsets for the where I start to draw. And what you see here is just a string that will outline the file. Now what this means is I can then search this string that I'm creating now, and as it carries the same order of characters as the other image, what I'll be able to do is figure out the index of where the variable I'm looking for is, and then search for it on the image accordingly. Here I make the string into a character array because it makes it slightly easier for me. And what you see here is me just making an uppercase of the string as well, as this means I don't have to mess around with the lowercase characters. What I next do is set up a for loop for the length of the character array. This is obviously if there's more than one character, I have to do this more than once. I have to do it for each character individually. XO and YO are figuring out the X position and Y position of the character in the image. The modulus 10 means if we divide index by 10, what remainder do we get? And index divided by 10 returns an integer, and that will just return the row and column of the image itself. We then set up a width and a height loops, and this is just so that we can draw the images. We check the images are on the screen with that little if code that you see there, and if they're on the screen we then set the target to equal whatever the colour is. What we have to do first is just make sure that the certain spot on the image is black or pink. We make sure it's not pink, because this way it will allow us easier to just make sure that it is black, because this way we can make it have blue, white or black and it would still work correctly. See there, we're not drawing it. We set it to draw white, and as you see we are drawing it in the top left corner there. However, I think it was drawing an A. So what we do here is we just print out what the index is. The index is 0. Whereas the string we're trying to print is 2. The string array is correct, so obviously the index isn't working correctly. String array 0 is returning 0 as well. And as you see here, it does actually work. You can't really see it too well because it's only small at the moment, but trust me, it does work. What you see me doing here is just extending the heads-up display a little bit more. We're creating a nameplate this time, and this will just allow us to display the character's name on a certain plate somewhere in the heads-up display. This just makes it look a little better, as we give the player a little bit of customization and allow them to add a name to their character. Just in the top left corner there we have the nameplate drawing, and what I'm actually doing is just using this to draw the level onto. This works quite well because it will blend in with the nameplate when we put it in. You see how I'm trying to place the nameplate in the correct place. It's quite a difficult thing to do because I'm very pedantic. I have to have it in the exact correct position. You see it there in the bottom right hand of the screen at the moment. In case you lost it, as it's been moving around the screen quite a lot. Also, we're including the middle there. This is just so that we can extend it a little longer. And then I'm making it into a variable so that I can draw it a lot easier that way. And then obviously I have to set my width, and I have to set my tile width, and then each of the tiles I want it to draw. And as you see there, it sort of draws the first bit, and then it draws a longer bit on the end of it. As you can see, it was I don't know if you see actually, it was overlapping on the edge, and so I just have to make it so the middle is only 1 pixel wide again. This is easier for me, as it means I can set it exactly as long as I want it, as opposed to roughly how long. What I'm doing at the moment is just trying to figure out where exactly I want to draw the bar, and I'm moving some of the bars around a bit, and as before I'm very pedantic, so things have to be exactly where I want them. If this pixel out, then I won't like the look of it, and it'll agitate me until I correct it. The problem here is the bars, the health, energy and experience bars will land right on the bottom of the screen, and it was playing on my mind, and so I had to set it properly. What you see there is just creating a variable called player level, and I get the level. And this is, as I was saying before, about drawing the level on the screen. It allows a little bit more of a game input, makes it a bit more like a game, and the RPG sort of game that I was trying to build. I've set the colour as black for where the colour of the message is printing, and I want it to draw the player's level. And how do you catch that? You see me doing here is just I'm trying to centre the thing in the middle of the plate. And as you see, it was sort of centre but not perfect, and so that was winding me up. And as you see, it increases as I increase level, which is always a good sign when you implement something and it works out for you. So what I'm doing there is just moving it up into the top left corner. This is because down in the bottom right corner it didn't look how I wanted it to look. I just have to redraw the level where I want it. Let's change the variables here as well so that the nameplate draws next to it. And as you can see, that looks quite good, I believe. Trying to increase the max width a little bit to just draw the health bars. As you can tell, they were still getting on my nerves that they weren't spot on, so I had to try and make it look as good as I can. What I'm actually doing here is setting the bars to be displayed at the top of the screen as well, to see what that looks like. But I thought it looked too clustered, and so I later go on to reverse it. Try and set the width perfectly, but I think it was about perfect the way it was before. As you see, in the end I set off at the same number that I started with. These ones here I just couldn't get right no matter how much I tried, they just always seem to be drawing incorrectly. I was trying to make sure that they was definitely drawn at the same spot, at the correct spot. As you see, I've just copied and pasted my old one back, and now they're back at the bottom again, and I think they look good here, as it don't make the top look too clustered. And what you see me doing here is just creating a name for the player called Tauslane, and so what I'll be doing now is just printing the name onto the nameplate. It should say another function called getName, which is probably quite predictable by now, and use my same function of print message in the font class. Set the variables to about right, and when I render that now, you see I get an error. And why that is, it's because at first it doesn't actually equal anything, and so I go and change that, and as you see it comes out alright in the end. Also, I was never actually setting what the player name equals, as you see there me changing, so obviously this was going wrong. Next I just make sure that the character is actually on the screen, and this way it stops me trying to print something that shouldn't be there. Obviously that could go really badly and causes a lot of errors in the game. The name is correct and I can't figure out why it isn't working, and it's actually in the font class where I've got string to uppercase, sorry. I am not setting that to equal a variable, and as you see there it works perfectly. And so I'm just making sure that I set it in the right place, and as you can see it's centred in the nameplate. Okay, that has been episode 8 of Programming with Matt. Thank you for tuning in this week, and I hope to see you next week. Thank you.